election headquarters. This is KAMR Local 4 News.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your local election headquarters. I'm here with David Gay. We are back. David, who do we have in studio with us right now?
We have anchor Andy Justus with us to discuss final results from Potter and Randall counties. How are you doing this evening?
Good, David. You know, we've got the Potter County numbers early on, and you and I were talking about this before. When you've got like 14, almost 15% of the voter to count in Potter County, it's a little bit easier as you go in there. The breaking news that we want to bring you right now is we do have a new mayor of Amarillo, Mayor-elect Cole Stanley. Those numbers are in. Those numbers are the unofficial results, but everything that we're seeing, it's done. He is the winner. He will go from being a commissioner to mayor soon. As we move down, if we want to kind of go through there, we do know that Don Tips in place 2 will be elected. He will cover that spot. Place 3, Tom Sherlin beats Cat Massey. We are going to see a runoff. I mean, this thing is going to continue through June.
We're going to see 2 runoffs.
2 runoffs, in fact. So we went into this thinking there was a possibility that in place 3 we could see one. Mm-hmm. Tom Sherlin doesn't need that. He picks up enough votes. He'll take over place 3. But in place 1, Josh Kraft and Dean Crump, those 2 gentlemen will go to the runoff. We'll find out who the winner is in June. I believe we can check the date. Is it June 24th? I want to try to say that is the date. And then in place 4, Les Simpson going up against Claudette Smith, former mayoral candidate. She's run a few times. When Cole Stanley decided he was going to run for mayor, she moved down to place 4. She will go to a runoff with Les Simpson.
And what's interesting is that, we figured here internally that, place 1 would probably go to a runoff just because of the sheer number of candidates that would be. But place 4 wasn't not something that we expected for a runoff.
Yeah, I think, when you started kind of looking at the numbers, and we're trying to gauge, we're checking the political temperature of Amarillo on a daily basis. So yeah, this one was kind of a surprise. Early on, it looked like the numbers that we got from the early voting that maybe Les Simpson was going to win it outright. He did not get enough votes. Of course, there's going to be canvassing, and they're going to do all of that. But at this point, we're going to have 2 runoffs, place 1 and place 4.
Absolutely. And I mean, with that, we also have final results in other things as well. In other places, we have Amarillo College final results. We have Amarillo ISD final results, all that can be found on myhighplains.com. What's interesting, to go back to place 4 just for a minute, Andy, is that we have, I've been calling this race throughout my coverage, probably the one that has the most experience, because you have 3 candidates who have run consistently before.
Yes.
And then you have Les Simpson, who, as Amarillo Globe News publisher, has had, coverage. He has coverage experience of covering the city government. I mean, with it being not a runoff, do you think that says something about, who ran specifically for place 4 and the experience?
I did. I thought that was interesting. It seems to me, as you were kind of watching things come through, Don Tips was one of those that declared early in place 2. And I think for the most part, candidates began to avoid place 2 right away. Don had name recognition. He had a lot of public support kind of early on. And then for some reason, place 1, and we don't know the reasons behind this, behind the closed door. And trust me, this happens. People talk about, well, where are you going to run? Who's going to be in this spot? And let's not do this. And so I thought that was interesting. And then in place 3, you've got all these people in place 1. You've got 4 in place 4. And then you've got Tom Sherlin has run for office before. Cat Massey has not, and then John Adair, but has a city experience. Has that. So yeah, that was for sure interesting. And I'm checking. Speaking of checking the political temperature, we thought there was a chance, but early on, that there could be a runoff between Cat Massey, but John Adair did not pull enough votes for that to happen. And as the final numbers, Sherlin's lead just continued to grow throughout the night. And when we got those final numbers out of Randall County, it proved to be true there.
Absolutely. And looking at Amarillo College Board of Regents, it looks like the 2 incumbents who were running for Amarillo College. Jay Barrett and Michelle Fortunato will retain their seats on the Board of Regents. And then we have a new person joining the Board of Regents, it looks like, with Irene Hughes. To look at some of their background, visit myhighplains.com. We had a questionnaire with all of them. So.
Right. So, and I'm curious, in this one, there were 3 definite, that surpassed the 20% mark. When you're looking at 20% of the vote, if you look in Randall County,
and Potter County.
Potter County,
yes,
yeah. Both of the same. And so in that one, it wasn't close. I think the next closest person to that was probably Brady Clark. But those top 3 vote getters are in. I think this has probably been one of the more publicized AISD school board elections in terms of the sheer numbers. A person that you and I have worked with in the past, John Mark Ballou, put his name on the ballot, and you talking about name recognition, he had that. And as we looked at those final numbers, he was if I want to make sure that stood up, and it did, John Mark Ballou was the top vote getter
in both counties.
Yes,
sir.
Followed by Steve Trafton in second place. And our final one, Connie Brown went ahead and held on to that one.
Yes, sir. And what's significant about this particular race is that there were 2 incumbents in this race, Kimberly Anderson and Mr. Dick Ford, and both did not win their reelection. So I guess
Kimberly Anderson, the board president.
Exactly. So what's going to be interesting about that is voters want new voices on the school board, and they want new perspectives, and it'll be interesting to see how the shakeup of 2 incumbents leaving, 3 new folks coming in changes the perspective overall on that board.
And I think if we double back and go back to the city council to talk about that for just a moment, I haven't seen this amount of shakeup in City Hall since probably 2015. We ended up having that big turnover, that big switch that we had, and we talked about this off camera a lot in the newsroom, that this election season kind of had that vibe here in Amarillo, that there was this angst of saying, hey, we're kind of tired of whatever the norm is. And this is what we're getting from interviews and everything else. And so it kind of mimicked almost what happened in 2015. We looked this one up as David and I were kind of getting ready for all this. We had to start get out the history book a little bit and look back to 2015. That race was Steve Rogers and Mark Nair. That went to a runoff. Mark Nair eventually beat Steve Rogers. And that was, just a whole new switch. And really, we're going into that here in that, of course, Cole Stanley has served before on the city council, but this is his first time as mayor. And so all of those commissioner places, it is a complete turnover. And as anybody who has worked in city government will tell you, there is a bit of a learning curve. I heard this tonight from Don Tips. Everybody's ready to get the ground. They want to get to work. They're ready, but we're going to have to hold until June for 2 of them.
But there's only so much you can do without. You can have the conversations. Yeah. You can have the conversations with, Laura Storrs about the budget, Jared Miller about city operations. But
till you're in there,
there's a difference between being outside and having conversations and being in the hot seat, making these decisions for the city of Amarillo.
It's like driving and being a passenger. It is a completely different thing when you're behind that wheel and you're driving. And so now we have a collective group that's now behind the wheel, and so we will be following what the direction in which they take the city. I think that we've heard a lot about this. They wanted change. They wanted transparency. We heard that a lot from those candidates. I'm curious. I want to double back now and talk to you because you sent out the questionnaires. You've looked over them all. What was the resounding thing that you found in those school board interviews?
We don't have all that time.
Yeah,
it's very long.
Yeah.
However, what I was talking with Dr. Roush about this. If you haven't watched our interview with Dr. Roush, it should be on our Facebook page. But we talked a lot about content and the fact that, especially in Amarillo ISD, there were some candidates like I believe Mr. Trafton who said, I looked at my grandkids' curriculum. I did not agree with what my grandkids' curriculum presented, and I did not like what they were being exposed to. So I ran for school board to raise awareness of that. So that's kind of the content issue, the quote pornography in schools issue is something that a lot of them have been running on, as well as school choice, which has been
hot topic.
Hot topic at the state level, at the local level. So it will be interesting for those who bring that different perspective to the table to come forward.
And if I remember correctly, going back and looking at Connie Brown, since she will now be on the school board, she actually, I believe, worked, was in Christian schools for some years, and she has that experience that she brings into this perspective. So she's not jumping on the school board blindly. She has some experience there.
The difference with the private school and the public school, bringing that,
and it is completely different. If you talk to anybody who has worked in public schools and have gone into private, it's a big difference. There's a big change there in how things are done. So these are all things that we're going to continue to follow. But again, the only runoffs that you will see here in Amarillo are place 1 and place 4. That's it. I do want to tell you, I got this information right before I came in here. We've talked a lot about Highland Park and the issues that they were having. Voters there, if I remember correctly, they voted yes on both of those bond proposals. One, I believe, was for $120 million. That has passed.
Yes.
And Proposition B, which was for much smaller, I think it was like $1 million. Yeah.
And improvements and stuff
like
that.
$1 million?
Yes, sir.
So a total of $121 million worth of bonds passed in Highland Park.
So just to give those exact numbers, in Potter County, 102 individuals voted for Proposition A, and 105 individuals voted for Proposition B. So this is out of 192 voters. That is tight. That is a tight race.
I think the thing that shocks me the most is that you've got a small group of people that are directing, changes, because our voter turnout, the apathy that we have, and this is across the board really in Texas. When you take a look at our overall state numbers, our voter apathy, we always talk about get out and vote. When you look, we had 14.7% voter turnout in Potter County. Mm-hmm. We had 19.5% in Randall County. So you have less than 20% of your eligible voters, people that are that are locked and loaded. They've got their voter card. They're ready to go. You have less than 20% of voters who are deciding the direction of cities, school boards. That's concerning.
Absolutely. And I'm looking back at my reporting about the Highland Park bonds that did pass. They total $130 million. That Proposition A is the big one. Mm-hmm. It would center around the addition of a career and technology center, as well as an early elementary school campus on some of the district's property north of the Amazon Fulfillment Center. Okay. I spoke with the superintendent about a month ago or so about this, and the idea is to create a neighborhood around there to increase their enrollment, because they've been having enrollment issues for a while. Right. So to make sure more kids are going through that district. But yeah, like you said, turnout is that's going to be something that we dive into much more after this.
So to put a bow on this, as we're wrapping up, the winners that we do know tonight, Cole Stanley will be the next mayor of Amarillo. Don Tips will move into place 2. Place 3 will be taken by Tom Sherlin. The city of Amarillo is getting new direction. Voters spoke loud and clear in this election, and we're going to see a pretty big change. I know there was not a lot of incumbents that decided to stick around. I know that Frida Powell, who is the mayor pro tem, decided to run for mayor, and we thought that there was a chance because of the sheer number there. But it was the numbers were overwhelming as I look at it. In just real quick before we go, in Randall County, Cole Stanley picked up 78% of the vote. Mm-hmm. In Potter County, he picked up 69.9% in what was a very crowded field.
Loud and clear indeed. Yes. And we'll be doing this again in June for the runoffs, with place 1 between Josh Kraft and Dean Crump, and for place 4 between Les Simpson and Claudette Smith. Andy, thank you so much.
Okay, before I go, I want to say you guys are doing such a great job in here. I know that we have two. There's you have the on-air team, and you have we all work together. But I want to brag on you guys so much, because the digital content is on fire right now. You guys are doing an amazing job. Y'all were the most prepared place to find election coverage, whether it was those questionnaires, whether it was the countless interviews that you did in the studio. You all, your entire team continues to amaze me. So thank you for doing such a wonderful job. Thanks for inviting me in here. And I guess I should go put on the other hat.
I was going to say, Andy has to actually do the news, you guys. He's got to go. So, Andy, always a pleasure.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy, you guys. So we appreciate him coming in here and hopefully wrapping things up in a bow. Thank you for coming in and announcing those winners. So appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you. And it was a fun night. We'll be back, yeah?
We'll be back, yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. See you later.